everybody right now in China is talking about the new Mate 60 Pro, okay? Or the Mate 60. And the reason is that they're saying that China has now finally been able to break the US sanctions, and they've been able to come up with their own 5G capable, advanced chip, which is being used as the CPU inside of the new Huawei, all right? Because it is 5G capable. And the weird thing is they didn't announce it. They just kind of released it. There was no fanfare. There was no press release. It was just suddenly available in the stores, okay? And then people are like buying it and, wow, this is great. Look, it can do 5G speeds. They're testing the speeds. They're tearing it down. It's got like we'll talk a little bit about the chip in a minute, but it says it's made in China on it and everything. And everyone's like, oh, this is amazing. China's finally beaten the Western sanctions and made their own thing, okay? And as you can see, CGTN, which is the Chinese official state media, is like, Huawei ignites Chinese internet with silent launch of Mate 60 Pro. What else do we have here? Zhang Meifeng, again, this is an official, CCP official.
In Belfast.
Yeah, she's like, Huawei Mate 60 Pro. So the Chinese government, again, is pushing this, which... Again, China always tries to pretend like Huawei is not connected to the government, but it is 100%.
That's what I wanted to say, guys. They used this argument when Huawei was in that big scandal.
Yeah.
They said that's a private company. We have nothing to do with it. And then every official on here.
But they took hostages because of Huawei.
Yes. And every Chinese official that's tasked with going to put propaganda out is doing unboxings of the new Huawei phone. Mm-hmm. And that's not Zhang Heching's hand.
No.
He's just posting what he was told to post.
I mean, again, like, can you imagine the new Apple comes out and you've got, like, the Secretary of Defense or the foreign ministers in the U.S., like, look at the new iPhone phone
America,
like, unboxing. It's like, look at this amazing phone. It's so fast. It's so great. Like, it's bizarre that all these government officials are pushing this, right?
And propagandists.
Yeah. This guy used to be he's the former editor of the Global Times propaganda, newspaper.
Propagandist.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to get a taste for this. There are propaganda bureau, obviously the propaganda department, and China in general is really, really pushing this phone that had no press release.
Yes.
Had no announcement. And the reason is we have to look at what they're saying. Go back a little bit.
Okay, I'll go back to one.
Let's look at an example of maybe this.
Yeah.
During former U.S. Secretary of Defense Robert Gates' visit to China, China held its first test flight of the J-20. During U.S. Commerce Secretary Raimondo's China visit, Huawei launched the Mate 60 Pro. Chinese netizens joked that this time Raimondo endorses Huawei. So what happened is, during these visits, they wanted to rush out this phone.
Yeah.
Do you know why? China's claiming that this phone doesn't need U.S. chips. It doesn't need Taiwan chips. It doesn't need anything. They can make everything in-house.
Yeah.
And that's a huge propaganda win for them, right?
Yeah, of course. And, if that is the case, that's a huge historical moment that China's managed to finally create something that the rest of the world has been able to create for a very long time. Yeah. And it would be a big win.
Right.
We'll talk a little bit about, like, how it's not really a very big win in a minute. But the thing is, it would be massive.
Right. But remember we were talking about the mandate thing?
Yeah.
Let's have a look at who else posted about it.
Yeah, let's see. We've got well-known Chinese propagandists posting everything. We've got, flat cap propagandist over here. He's going to scope out the Huawei Mate Pro. He's still waiting for his wife to let him buy one, though. Poor guy.
This is actually a propaganda account.
Propaganda account, yeah, exactly. And again, see, they're mentioning the meeting with the Secretary Raimondo.
Yeah.
See?
Everyone got the mandate. You please put today. Imagine it like this if you want to really simplify. Everyone that works for the CCP today, make sure you make a tweet about the Huawei Mate 60 Pro.
Yeah, I like how it's like 5 days before Premier Li Keqiang, whatever, he visited Huawei's headquarters. So again, how is this not government? He's about to meet like
they work
the
with
US
the PLA.
Yeah, exactly. He's about to meet the whatever this Raimondo woman is. Yeah. Okay. So just before he goes on an official state visit to Huawei before meeting, of course it's government linked. Yeah. Blinken's not like, I'm going to visit the Apple headquarters before I go and meet with Chinese.
Go America. This represents the true American heart. I'm
going to visit the Harley Davidson factory.
Yes. Harley represents our American spirit and heart.
Yes. It's kind of pathetic. Anyway, who else we got here? obviously, we've got the top shills and the top propagandists everywhere. What a surprise!
Again? Oh wait, again?
King shill, yeah, golf shill's at it again. See how they're like? This is a good way to look at their official narrative. Is to look
Remember
at
I said
King
the
shill.
mandate?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do we need everyone to talk about? Well, today's the Huawei. Yesterday was Nord Stream pipeline. They do what they are told.
Yeah, so here, let's read what he had to say, because this is how you can read what the Chinese government is trying to put out there, is by listening to their propagandists. What's incredible about Huawei's new phone? ? Even high-level Huawei employees had no idea of this project. It was a total company secret. For China to break through sanctions and develop this using only domestic technology is remarkable. Huawei Mate 60 is an absolute game changer.
I thought his tweet was the best to represent what the propaganda narrative is. It's that we don't care about the sanctions. You know, the CHIPS Act from Biden? That's not going to affect us. We can do it
ourselves. Look how we managed to shame America by, doing away with their sanctions.
Let me just get this straight, because you're a tech guy. So what he's telling me is that China was sanctioned, has never made chips that could ever go into a device like this. They've always had to have them made in Taiwan or abroad. Yeah. They were cut off from all of the manufacturing equipment, right? They're not allowed to import the chips either. Yeah. And somehow they in-house, in 2 years, in less than 2 years, in-house made their own chip that is competitive with a Snapdragon processor. That's what he's trying to say.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. That's literally impossible.
Well, I mean, there are ways that it can be done. Like you could get it manufactured outside of China and bring it in. You could have shell companies.
That
you could do
goes against the narrative.
Yeah, of course.
This was made in-house.
Yeah. Well, let's just talk about it a little bit. Yeah. I mean, again, we've got just so much propaganda going on about this phone, right? It's just insane how many people are just pushing it.
It was a mandate.
So here's the thing. Huawei itself refuses to tell anyone what the processor inside of what the chip inside of that phone is. It's not anywhere in their literature. They didn't do a press release. They're not answering questions about it. So what's been left is for tech people in China, by the way, because the only information about this is coming out of China itself. There's been no international, like tech groups or anything have been able to get their hands on this phone. It's only coming from China. So the local Chinese tech guys, and they're actually very good tech guys in China, by the way, like tech channels and things. They've disassembled this phone, and they've been able to see that the chip has the same number as a Kirin 9000, which is, by the way, produced by Taiwan in 2020. So it's actually not a Chinese-produced thing. No. It's a Chinese company, HiSilicon.
They pay Taiwan to make it.
To make the 9000 chip. So it was. But now, instead of TW on it, it says CN, like as if it's made in China.
Oh, so it looks like the same chip.
It looks like it's the same as a 9000. But according to like some benchmark things that they've run, it's coming up as a 9000S.
Okay.
So it's obviously like an upgraded version or a better version of the 9000. Sure. Okay. And it's getting reasonable scores on, Geekbench and other benchmarks.
Is it though? Because it's self-reported.
Yeah, the thing is, again, the only evidence we have is that this is the stuff coming from within China, from Chinese sources. It hasn't been like internationally looked at. But what was uploaded to Geekbench was the following numbers. If you look up here, this one that says 1,225 single core and 3,295 multi-core. That is the new Huawei Mate 60 Pro. Okay, those are the numbers. The thing is, those aren't actually very good numbers. They are equivalent to Snapdragon 888, which is 2 generations behind, and we're looking at something that was released in like 2020, maybe 2021 at the latest. So we're talking about a fairly old architecture. Also, it's not the latest nanometer. It's not that great, and they've been, well, just as an example, the iPhone 14 Pro puts out 5,455 for its multi-core, and the Huawei is putting out 3,295. What I'm saying is it's not that impressive. Okay, it's impressive for the fact that it's capable of being as good as a 3-year-old, Snapdragon processor. The 2 generations ago thing, the fact that they could do that. But it's not actually impressive if you look at it as a chip.
The thing is, like, I don't buy any of this.
No.
Even from that perspective, that would already be kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
At the amount of billions that were pushed from
Sure.
the central government. But I don't even believe it from that perspective because logically it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Logically, it doesn't make sense. Why would it not just be the stockpile that they hoarded in 2020 before the chip
Well,
ban?
you see, that's the real speculation, is that these are not new chips. These were the chips that were produced weeks before the sanctions kicked in, right? The actual Kirin 9000.
Because they were hoarding them.
Yeah, the 9000 is the older chip that was still made when the sanctions hadn't kicked in yet.
Yeah.
Okay? They were made in Taiwan. So this could have been a last hurrah where they got a huge batch of these 9000, but just 9000S, and they changed the silk screen, or they changed the solder
Could
mask
be.
or whatever to,
We don't know
CDCM.
yet, but it
Yeah.
seems sus.
I would say it's probably a big batch of old chips that were made, which were 5G capable.
Yeah, they
because
were.
the 9000,
They're made in Taiwan.
the Kirin 9000 chip, that was used in the Huawei Mate 40 in 2020, those were 5G.
Yeah.
Those were, just what they're claiming now for this new one.
Right.
So I'd say there's a great possibility that these are stockpiled old chips and not something that's been made.
If I was to put
No.
my chips on anything,
Yeah, put your
I
chips
think
down.
in due time we'll probably find out that that's the case because they'll rush something out for propaganda to get
Yeah.
the hype. They don't care later. It's just like the Russia stuff we were talking about that last time. They don't care if it gets caught out later.
Yeah.
It served its purpose at the moment because the average person is not going to go back and double check on that. If you get 90% of people that consume the story and then don't go back and look, and that 10% goes back and say, "Oh, that was fake."
Yeah.
90% of the people believe that, and that's in their subconscious now.
Yeah.
Right? It serves a purpose.
Well, it serves a great propaganda win.
Yeah.
And again, it's still, it's still up in the air. We don't know if they really have manufactured this chip. But the thing is,
My gut tells me
I'm looking at this with a lot of doubt.
Yes.
Just because we know how China has operated in the past.
Remember the CPU company?
Yeah, they made new homegrown CPUs, and they were just i3s that had been rebranded.
But do you remember what the hoopla about that was? The Chinese government used it as propaganda, saying we've made our own processor, we don't need Intel anymore, and it turned out it was just an Intel processor that they
rebranded,
drew
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Like
Use
with
the
a
laser
crayon.
etching machine, But I mean, that's the thing. We have to always be very careful when it comes to these kind of things. You
Yeah.
can't just take the propaganda at face value. And here's the thing. Okay, I gotta say that if China really had developed this chip,
Yes.
it would have been the biggest announcement in the frickin' world. Okay,
Yes.
Huawei would have come out with a press release and shown everybody this amazing new
Yes.
chip, but they haven't said shit about it.
No.
It's only these bloggers and these propagandists and stuff going crazy about, like, look at what we've done. Look at what China's done. It's amazing. Huawei itself is silent.
They haven't said shit.
No,
And by the way,
they don't even acknowledge the model of the chip in the phone.
there has never been
Mm-hmm.
such a large, unprecedented release of a tech product that had no press release.
Yeah.
It was rushed out for this purpose after the U.S. visit.
Why would they not be shouting it from the rooftops
Yeah.
that we have cracked this, we're doing our own 5G, we've overcome everything? Why is Huawei not doing that and showcasing their new processor and offering it as as an alternative in other devices? Why are they not doing that?
Get ready, because they always bank on. I also bank, like I said about they don't care because 90% of people won't go back and look.
Yeah.
But they do have to realize, and they haven't realized this yet, is that people are too smart, whether it be in China or anywhere else. They'll figure it out. You're not going to pull the wool over anyone's eyes once they get their hands on it.
Yeah.
And they actually figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Because again, the only stuff we've seen is domestically out of China.
Yeah.
All the results that they've submitted is from Huawei.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing organic third party.
Yeah, exactly. Once somebody gets a hold of it and they x-ray the chip, they'll be able to
figure it
really
out.
figure out what's going on with this thing.
But what I want you to do is, like pretty much everything we've called before, remember this episode, and then when you see that article, go back to this and be like, yes, those guys probably guessed it right.
And again, if they have managed to pull this off, props to them for doing it.
I guess.
The thing is, I mean, at the end of the day, this whole, by the way, the Kirin 9 thing, it's just based off of copied ARM architecture anyway, licensed ARM, which is, whatever, Acorn, RISC, whatever the hell it is, from back in the day. You'll remember those BBC micros and stuff. It all comes from that. Anyway, the fact is, ARM is what this thing's based on. So it's not something that's homegrown anyway.
It's not new.
No. It's like
old.
You've got some technology that was developed somewhere else, and you take it and you kind of add some bells and whistles. That's pretty much what the Kirin 9000 is anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not a Chinese product.
And again, it's not made by China anyway. It's made in Taiwan.
Yeah. This new
one is tech. So I want to do the TLDR.
Yeah.
China, with no press release, releases their new Huawei phone that is supposedly crippled by sanctions.
Just in time for this visit.
For this U.S. visit, right? Yeah. In this propaganda campaign, at least from what it looks like, what they're claiming is that they've bypassed all sanctions. The West is doomed and failed. Mm-hmm. China will use their own ingenuity and innovation. They don't need anything else. They're not copycats, and they can make everything themselves. Mm-hmm. And if all of that is true, they've managed to match 2 generations behind cell phone chips.
Yeah.
It looks absolutely like that's not the fact and not the case, and it's probably reused old stock of chips before the sanctions hit.
Yeah.
And they're going to bank on the fact that nobody's going to care in due time.
No one's going to do due diligence.
That's pretty much how I call it, and that's pretty much how we've seen it play out over and over and over again.
Yeah, so let's find out. Again, this will be an interesting thing to see the results of.
Yeah.
We just wanted to remind everybody.
Oh, yeah, a little
if Huawei's so great, why is it that the Huawei CFO, Meng Wanzhou, when she was arrested, had a MacBook, iPhone, and iPad with her, rather than Huawei stuff?
I have an inkling of why I know why.
Because it's better. Why is the Wang Yi, the foreign minister over there, why does he have an iPhone and not a Chinese branded thing? Why is Xi Jinping's wife using an iPhone rather than a Huawei?
Guess what?
I mean, that's an old picture, but still.
I think it's a rule.
What?
I think it's a rule.
What?
I heard that a lot of countries will make their employees, especially anyone in a high security clearance, to use Apple products because they're kind of a self-contained system and much harder to compromise.
It's true.
If they're using Huawei's, you might as well kiss that data and all your privacy goodbye.
Well, it's because it's all like some jank.
By the way, Huawei doesn't even use Android.
Yeah, we got to bring this up. Why does this Wu Jing guy? He's that Wolf Warrior guy.
Yeah.
Why is he like advertising Huawei phones but using an Apple?
Practice what you preach, guys.
Yeah, exactly. That's something that we need to actually address before we put the final word in this whole thing, and before we do this nonsense. Guys, if you were to buy a Huawei phone, you can't do anything with it anyway. It's got a horrible operating system on it, which is a
Harmony OS.
It's called Harmony OS, which is a watered down, knocked off version of Android.
Yes.
Okay, and you can't install any Google apps on it. It's completely blocked out. It's a closed system for China.
People are like, you can jailbake it.
Yeah,
Who's doing that?
It also costs $1,000.
Yes, over $1,000, right?
No, it's about $1,000.
Okay.
It's about $1,000 for that Huawei Mate 60. I don't know, the Mate 60 Pro is probably more expensive, but the Mate 60. So you're paying $1,000 for a phone that you actually just can't use for anything.
A non-Android,
yeah,
Harmony OS, Chinese phone that has been caught in the past by the U.S. for security problems, backdoors, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily
Huawei,
the
the
phones,
company,
but the company.
Yeah.
And is developed homegrown in China that's going to cost an iPhone price?
Yeah.
No thanks.
I mean, here's the thing. If you want to buy a phone just so you can sideload it and crack it so that you can...
that's not an average consumer.
No, and if that's the case, that means, I mean, the kind of person that would do that is buying a cheap phone.
Yeah.
Like you buy a $200 phone and maybe it's from AT&T or something. It's got its own thing on it and you can't install, so you crack it so you can install your own apps.
Guess what? You can buy a cheap phone with the same generation processor. That for less money.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah, I mean, it's kind of really, it's such a weird situation.
Yeah.
And the fact that everyone's like going out and worshiping this thing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Pushing it out there. But even Huawei itself is kind of not making anything about it.
Because we'll see, and we'll make something about it.
Yeah.
We'll watch. Keep your eye on this story. I reckon it won't be that long. Like when those test batches get out and when other people in different countries get their hands on it.
Yeah.
I reckon we'll get the truth.
Yeah, eventually the truth will come out. But at the end of the day, we'll leave it open-ended. Maybe they have developed something. And that'd be great for Huawei. It'd be amazing. It'd be like they can finally make old, slow chips.
At a loss.
Yes.
Because, by the way, with those sanctions and stuff, if they were doing this all in-house, it would be at absolutely immense cost.
Yeah.
It would be not feasible to continue.
Exactly. There's more urine in that pool than there is water.
And almost everyone in there is peeing. There are many types of perverts.
Predatorial salivating wolf. You perv.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
perv.
Drooling. Yeah, exactly.
He goes, catching. He's
Yeah,
taking
exactly.
pictures. Look at his drool.
Yeah, it's like a drooling upskirt photo guy. Grope. He likes to grope. Yeah.
This is the official GIF of the CCP. That's an official CCP
That's an official example of being a
Yes.
pervert. I like how he's got a magnifying glass. What could make that worse?
Definitely going all the way in.
Well, how about submersing yourself? I mean, that's next level. That's just.
When I close my eyes, I can almost see it. When I take a breath, you fill up my lungs.